Good morning, students. Today, I will be sharing with you the topic of infrastructure. This is infrastructure for class 12, part 1. Now, what actually is infrastructure? You must have heard different political parties and in Modi's Make in India program, infrastructure development. Now, we will study why infrastructure development is so important. So, what is basically infrastructure? Infrastructure means supporting services in the main areas of industrial and agricultural production, domestic and foreign trade and commerce. If you look at it, this is the supporting structure in the economy. These services include roads, railways, airports, seaports, dams, power stations, oil and gas pipelines, telecommunication services. The country's educational system, including schools and colleges, health system, including hospitals, sanitary system, including clean drinking water facilities, and the monetary system, including bank, insurance, and other financial institutions. So, if you look at this, these all are the supporting services for the needed for the development of the economy. This is of two kinds. One is the economic infrastructure and second is the social infrastructure. Social infrastructure refers to the development in the society, and economic infrastructure basically deals with the development in the economic structure of the country. Now, if we see it, we divide social and economic infrastructure, as you can see clearly. Now, in the social infrastructure, it indirectly helps the economic system, whereas the economic infrastructure directly helps the economic system by direct participation. The economic infrastructure improves the quality of economic resources. Expenditure on it increases the stock of physical capital. In the chapter where we have done human capital formation, I have explained to you what is physical capital and what is human capital. The economic infrastructure increases the stock of physical capital over time, whereas the social infrastructure improves the quality of human resources, and expenditure on human resources will raise the stock of human capital. If you recollect, in that topic we have done what is human capital formation and why is it so very important. Supposing to develop the economic infrastructure, and the social infrastructure is not developed. So what happens in that case? In that case, the people are not there to work. People are not trained to work. They are not qualified to work on those machines, so it goes a waste. Now, economic infrastructure includes things like energy, transport, and communication, whereas health infrastructure includes health, social infrastructure includes health, education, and housing system. Types of infrastructure, like economic includes irrigation, power, transport, communication, whereas social infrastructure includes education, health, sanitation, and housing. Now, let us start with the importance of infrastructure development. Why do you think the infrastructure, you can very well see here, you have a metro going over bridge, then you have skyscrapers here, which shows good transportation system. Now, why do you think we should study this? If you look at it, the infrastructure is a very important tool in economic analysis. The infrastructure is the support system on which depends the efficient working of a modern industrial economy. The development of infrastructure and economic development, they go hand in hand. Why do they go hand in hand? Because if infrastructure is developed, then only economic development can take place. And if there is economic development, then we can see that infrastructure has developed. Whenever we talk about any country, we say that that country has, like US is a developed economy. So what all do we see in the developed economy? We see things which are infrastructure. Modern agriculture largely depends upon its speedy and large-scale transportation of seeds, pesticides, fertilizers, and the produce using modern roadways, railways, and shipping facilities. In recent times, agriculture also depends upon insurance and banking facilities, because of it needs to operate on a very large scale. Now, if you think, let us think about a situation in agriculture. Agriculture is developed. We say agriculture is developed, there is a good harvest, but there is a strike. The goods cannot be transported from the farmers to the markets. What will happen? Is it going to affect our economy? Yes, definitely. In the primary sector, without the permanent means of irrigation, transportation, etc., agricultural production will totally depend upon nature. The farmer would sow the seeds only if it rains. It means if the rains are deficient, sowing would also be deficient. It means that in the absence of the permanent means of irrigation, transportation, etc., the output in agriculture would remain lower than the potential which it can work. So agriculture, or the primary sector, totally depends upon infrastructure. Then we talk about the second point. Infrastructure contributes to economic development of a country, both by increasing the productivity of the factors of production. How does it increase? The industrial progress depends on the development of power and electricity generation, transport and communication. आपने बहुत अच्छी एक सेटअप कर लिया एक फैक्ट्री, लेकिन वहां पे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी नहीं है. Will there be development? Will there be production? Production means development. So it is very important that all other areas should be developed, and these other areas are the electricity generation, transport, and communication. In the secondary sector, if there is industrial production without such sources of energy as coal, petroleum, and electricity, industrial production is not possible. Industrial production depends upon these things. So if you want to increase your industrial production, you need to increase your electricity. Industrial progress depends on the development of power and electricity generation, transport, and communication. This point I have made very clear. Then improvements in water supply and sanitation have a large impact by reducing the morbidity from major waterborne diseases and reducing the severity of diseases when it occurs. Now, most of the diseases are through water, and because of poor sanitation. If the water supply and sanitation are not improved, if you do not have clean drinking water and good sanitation, you find many of the diseases, especially the waterborne diseases, are there. So if you want to take care of the health of the economy, of the health of the people of the country, you need to have a good water supply and sanitation system. The quality of transport and communication infrastructure can affect the access to healthcare. Supposing you do not have good transportation system, the patients are there, but they cannot be brought to the hospitals because of lack of transport and communication. So definitely the healthcare is affected. Now, this is the state of infrastructure in India, what we are talking about. What is the infrastructure state? We have planes, and we have rockets, we have metros, etc. Traditionally, the government has been solely responsible for developing the country's infrastructure. One more point. When we were talking about importance, what was the situation was, if you have a better infrastructure, you have more of investment. There's a term, ease of doing business. If the infrastructure facilities are good, why do you think a particular country or a foreign firm will invest in India? Only if they are able to do good business. That is ease of doing business. And what does that mean? That means that they have a good transportation system. You have a good electricity. You have a company, they start a company and you do not have power. They are not going to put their money. So if you want more investment to come to India, you have to improve the infrastructure facility. And one very important point is the infrastructure generates linkages in production. We have two kinds of linkages. One is the forward linkage, one is the backward linkage. Look at it. The industrial sector depends upon the raw materials which are coming from the primary sector. तो जो प्राइमरी सेक्टर से रॉ मटेरियल आ रहे हैं, जो चीजें प्राइमरी सेक्टर से इंडस्ट्रीज को मिल रही हैं, दिस इज व्हाट इज कॉल्ड एज द बैकवर्ड लिंकेज. वो सिर्फ बैकवर्ड जो है अटैच्ड है, लिंकेज है इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर की प्राइमरी सेक्टर से. सिमिलरली द गुड्स व्हिच आर बीइंग प्रोड्यूस्ड बाय द प्राइमरी सेक्टर, नाउ दे हैव टू reach the people. That is transportation, communication, marketing, that is required. This is what is called as the forward linkages. And these linkages will only happen if there is a development in the infrastructure. Infrastructure, next point is infrastructure enhances the size of the market. Large-scale production is possible only when the size of the market is large. Infrastructure increases the size of the market. It is with the view of expanding size of the market that the British products in India were transported through a network of railways and was developed by the British. We have done this in the first term. How were the Britishers able to take away the raw materials from India and supply their marketed goods? By developing the railways. And what is railways? Railways is infrastructure, railways, roadways. Infrastructure enhances the ability to work. It includes educational and medical institutions. These institutions promote education, skill formation, and healthcare. It is only if a person is healthy, then his contribution to economic development is possible. Growth is accelerated with a healthy infrastructure, social infrastructure, good education, and you have proper medical facilities. Infrastructure facilitates outsourcing. We have done in the previous topic outsourcing. Now, outsourcing can only be done when a country having a good infrastructure is a destination for outsourcing. And in that chapter, we had studied why is India considered a good destination for outsourcing. The main reason is that the global definition for call centers, study centers, etc., medical tourism, it all depends upon the good infrastructure. And lastly, infrastructure includes foreign direct investment. People will only invest, foreign investment will only come when there is a better infrastructure. Therefore, infrastructure is an important determinant in the growth and development of a country. It raises the productivity of the factors of production and induces investment in diverse area of economic development. It enhances the size of the market and develops an economy as a global destination for outsourcing. So till now, what we have studied is that what was the situation, why infrastructure is important, how is infrastructure related to economic development, and how economic development is related to infrastructure. When there is development of infrastructure, then only there will be economic development. And when there is economic development, then there will be development of infrastructure. So both these things, infrastructure and economic development, go hand in hand. Infrastructure leads to economic development, and economic development leads to a better infrastructure. Now, look at the structure. What is the condition of infrastructure in India? Traditionally, the government was solely responsible for developing the country's infrastructure. But the government was not able to increase the infrastructure to an adequate level. Therefore, the private sector by itself also joined the partnership with the public sector, which is called PPP, private public partnership, has started playing a very important role in infrastructure development. It is the foundation of development. Still, India needs to invest more of its GDP on infrastructure, which is much less than countries like China and Indonesia. Economists have projected that India will become the third biggest economy in the world in a few decades. For this, infrastructure development is most important. If the infrastructure is developed, then only it is possible that India becomes one of the leading sources of development.